tonight I have the pleasure of calling the meeting to order as Chair Pro Tem because it's our reorganizational meeting. So we technically don't have any board officers at this point in time. So I will call the meeting to order at 6:01. And the first order of business is to get this meeting out of my hands and into a chair's hands. So are there any nominations for chair of your MAUSD board? All right, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Any other nominations for chair? All right, looks like you're not going to be fighting over it tonight, so I will close nominations. And with that, is there a motion to accept, approve Aaron Gibner as your chair? Moved by Barb, seconded. All those in favor as Aaron as chair of the MAUSD board, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? It's all
Okay.
yours.
One more time, guys. One more time. One more time.
Patrick, I can
One-
really only see and hear you. I can't see or hear anybody else.
It's theoretically, we're going to test this. This is a repaired, revised, replaced owl. It should follow the voice of the person speaking. So because I was speaking, presumably that's why it was focused on me, but we shall see.
Okay, my fingers are crossed.
Okay.
Meredith, can you hear me talking?
A little bit. You're quiet, but I can sort of hear you. Liz, Kristen, Beth, if you can hear everything fine, it might just be me.
No, I'm with you. I'm not hearing anything right now.
Okay.
I just changed the microphone to the owl. Let's see if that's any better as other folks are speaking.
How about now, Meredith?
Oh, much better.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
We're just looking at you.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Might just get a really.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you go. Here we
There.
go. Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Fully function.
Now we're in business. Okay. Next item of business is a vice chair. Do I have a nomination for a vice chair?
Yeah, I nominate Meredith Rossignol.
Any other nominations? Meredith, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Lovely. All those in favor, or can I get a motion to approve Meredith Rossignol as vice chair?
So moved.
Melissa first,
Second?
Justin second. All those in favor of electing Meredith Rossignol as vice chair, please say aye.
I
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And last is our clerk. Can I get a nomination? They do like notes and stuff. They sign certain things.
And
It
this-
has been Barb.
And this one can be a little bit confusing because there are technically two clerks. There's the clerk of the board,
Yep.
which is separate from the clerk of the district, which you elected at the annual meeting, and that's Jennifer.
I nominate Barb Cran.
Any others? Barb, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Wholeheartedly?
With enthusiasm.
Can I get a motion for Barb for clerk?
So move.
Justin first?
Second.
Melissa's. All those in favor of electing Barb Crandall to clerk, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Yay. Next is an action item to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Kylie first,
Second.
Justin second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions. All right, next we have public comment. I So for those of you who might not attend regularly, we often, we have public comment. We'll just raise your hand if you'd like to speak. We'll call you up and then hear you out. Yeah. You just state your name
Sure.
and where you're from.
My name is Renee McGinnis. I live in Moncton. So thank you for taking my comment this evening. It has come to my attention that Beaman Elementary has a self-identity 4-day DEI program that they're teaching at Beaman from kindergartners through 5th grade. I live in this community, as we all do. We have a vested interest in the welfare of our children, who are our future adults and leaders. Dressing in drag is a fetish, and it is inappropriate to allow drag queens into the school to practice their fetish in front of children, ages kindergarten through 5th grade. Children simply need to learn the golden rule. They do not need to be exposed to drag queens to understand the practice of kindness and respect toward everyone. Schools need to be focusing on academics, which they have been largely failing to do, not DEI. And so my first request would be that you completely withdraw the drag queen story hour from Beaman. I guess I could assume that this program is also occurring at all the other elementary schools in Mount A Unified School District. It needs to be pulled from all schools. That would be my first request. This is inappropriate for kindergartners through 5th grade. It is inappropriate. If you're not going to do that at a minimum, I would ask that you proactively provide alternative lesson plans for the entire self-identity unit, all 4 days, I think it's 4 days, and notify parents that they have a right to opt their children out from these programs and accept an alternative lesson plan. This is also a violation of the DEI ban, the federal DEI ban, and it is being reported to the US Department of Education for investigation. You do not have the high moral ground on this situation, bringing these programs into the school. This is inappropriate. And I certainly do not agree with my tax dollars going towards these types of programs. I want to see our kids have self-respect and self-esteem based on merit, based on academics that will help them to prosper in their lifetimes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Other public comment? Is that, you answer your first? Yeah.
Tanya Lawyer. I would echo the sentiments of Renee. I also have a few questions regarding the, I guess, if you will, the announcement of this particular week that's gonna happen. I found out about it through the grapevine, but when I went on both the MAUSD website and Beaman's website, it was incredibly difficult to find. And so not knowing if the information I had gotten was the correct information, I sent an email to the school last Thursday. It got no response. And then because I didn't get a response, I called there Monday and explained why I was calling, and I was put on hold. And the person came back that answered the phone and said that I would have to email the principal. She gave me the principal's email address and said that the principal would have to talk to me, and so I sent an email right away. I also inquired, and the person that answered the phone said that they didn't get my email, and I said, well, I followed the little, go down the page and click here if you want to send an email. That's what I did, so I don't know why you didn't get it. Really irritated that nobody in the 5 days has even remotely tried to get a hold of me, so I could at least determine if the information I was hearing was correct or not. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, was this was sponsored by the PTO. And if it was, then I guess, as a taxpayer, I don't have children in that school, but as a taxpayer, I'd like to know how our tax dollars are spent for these things, because when I finally did get information about what was happening that week, and I assume that's everything that was going on in the week, it appeared, if that information was correct, that there was $1,000 being paid to a author to come in and $4,500 for some circus thing. Now, I don't know if that all pertained to that week or something else, but I was like, this is why my taxes keep going up for ridiculous stuff like this. And if the PTO is sponsoring it, I'm assuming that there are parents involved in that organization. They were back in the dinosaur age when I was in the PTO, but I don't know how the general public gets to have any input about how those dollars are spent. And secondly, if it's just a case of somebody asking, why don't we do this, or this is what our suggestion is. So I want to know how much, and I really feel like the announcement, if you will, or the information about this was really hidden from the public, the general public. It doesn't seem to be a problem on Front Porch Forum for people who are pro-budget to come out and get, say they want the budget passed, say they want your support, but don't see anything like that about this particular event. So I'm pretty sure that if I ask the PTO to have a class on the Second Amendment and what your rights are for obtaining and keeping guns, that would be a big fat no in the educational system. So I don't agree with what is happening. And if any parent asked me any information about it, I would say, I don't agree with it. It's up to you to make your own decision. But if you're against it, I highly recommend you keep your kids home from school that week.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah.
My name is Lynn Dyke. My children, my grandchildren are out of school, but I have great grandchildren that are coming up. And this really bothers me a lot, that they would hear this in school. In school, where they're supposed to be educated, learn how to get along with other people. And I'm thinking, once you see something like a drag queen or whatever, you can't unsee it. And I don't think that these young kids have the mental maturity to process this stuff. And we're wondering why our kids are so messed up. Why can't we just stick to something that everybody wants? There are way many people who do not want this. So please reconsider what you're doing.
Thanks, Lynn. Any other public comment?
Hi there, my name's Jody Brown. I live in New Haven. I have two children who attend Beaman Elementary School, and I'm part of the Beaman PTO. I'm running away. So I was actually one of the two members of the PTO who recommended and nominated this program to move forward. Just as an FYI, this is part of a PTO recommended event or a PTO sponsored event. So taxpayer dollars are not going into it. The PTO raises money through different fundraisers, and we elect as a group what we choose to spend our money on. And so it was something that was approved as the group that we felt we could spend money on. And we had been working with the principal, Stephanie Sumner, regarding this. So the reason that I initially brought this to the table as something that I thought was important is that because we have queer kids in our school, we have at least one out trans kids, and I don't know how many other queer kids are there. And these kids are being bullied, they're being harassed, and they're suffering from that. And as you may or may not be aware, many of you might be, is that, queer kids especially are a particularly vulnerable population. They're at risk for bullying, they're at risk for depression, and they're a very high risk for suicide. And so part of this was some preventative education and a fun way to present information that I had actually seen before. So I had previously brought my children to a library event where a drag queen story hour was taking place with the same two individuals who are planning on doing this. And so just as like a little education as well, is that what Drag Queen Story Hour is not gay people coming in and flaunting sexuality and doing anything inappropriate. It's a performative event, much like any play, and children do go to see plays and they see people who get dressed up very fancy and do funny things, and they, so it's just a fun performative way to present educational material. They read books, and the books are about loving yourself, being kind to other people, and celebrating our differences. And so that seemed like a fun and creative way to engage students with the material, and also like bringing a queer component into the school. There are queer people who exist in our communities. There are queer people who exist in our school as students. There are queer teachers and staff. And also, I think it's important to have representation. If children do not see themselves and other people and adults who are succeeding in the world, they're even at higher risk. So we had a PTO meeting 2 months ago, and there were other people who came in to express their concerns about it. And it was actually a really lovely conversation that we had amongst different parents and PTO members who had concerns about it taking place. And I felt like it was a productive and well heard thing. And part of why I wanted to come here is just to make sure that there is some education to y'all and also to people who have concerns. I'm not interested in trying to indoctrinate anybody. I'm not interested in pushing an agenda. I'm interested in making sure that kids, especially kids who are at risk, feel safe, feel heard, and feel like they have a place to go, and that it's okay to just be who you are, and that it shouldn't be a struggle just to exist as an individual at school, just trying to learn. And that is what we're seeing with a lot of kids, and queer kids especially. That is a problem. And this was part of a solution to a problem that we thought would be fun and creative way. I think that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We're not done with public comment, but thank you. Mike.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Dudek. I live in New Haven. I am a Beeman community member. I'm gonna echo everything that Jody just said. And trying to not repeat everything that she said. But there's a couple of things I want to lean in on. One, drag queen, I think needs to be something that folks need to be informed about. This event that we spent some time looking at and researching, and not just saying we're going to throw this at our kiddos, but really doing some research behind it. It looks and leans in on building literacy. It's about creative expression. It's about storytelling, and it's about identity and knowing who you are as a person. I fully embrace and accept and appreciate the fact that Beeman Elementary is doing something for our kiddos that feel marginalized, are marginalized, and don't feel like they're a part of a community. The Drag Queen Hour isn't the only thing that's happening during Unity Week or Self-Expression Week. Principal Sumner has a lot of different things going on in that week that will help to embrace all students in a way that they feel accepted, included, and at this point feel like they are ready to learn. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was our portrait of a learner. We spent a lot of time within this community to talk about what this quote North Star is. What are we leaning in on as we think about our students walking into our buildings? And when we look at what those critical pieces are, it's about being empathetic. It's about being confident and motivated. It's about being engaged, having a safe and inclusive environment, being skillful and knowledgeable, and being critical thinkers. I am a happy parent that we have a building that is modeling what it is that we're saying we are going to do. We're saying what we're doing, and we're leaning in on that. And it is really important for us as a community to think about folks that do not look like us. I'm a white, middle-aged person, male with privilege. I want my kiddos and other kiddos to see other people, other identities, and identify who they are and be okay with that. Self-expression is really important. And our kiddos are feeling stress with their peers, with society, from parents, from guardians about who they should be, what they should look like, what's acceptable, what isn't. And I want kiddos to feel like who they want to be. And without saying more, I went to the PTO meeting. I wanted to get some information about what this event was or what this week would be. And I left fully embracing what the building principal was doing, and to also acknowledge that the kiddos within that building overall were asking for a sense of safety and a sense of belonging. And this is an event, a week event that shouldn't just be 1 week to highlight identity and self-expression and safety, but something that we're going to spearhead and build a foundation so that when they come up to the middle and high school, they feel that sense. And I do welcome anyone and everyone to ask questions about what the event is and what we're looking to do. But again, it leans on inclusion, safety, belonging, and not just tolerance, but understanding people for who they are and allowing that to happen within our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I saw a hand in there, yeah. Yeah, come on up.
I'm Erin Heffernan. And I'm here in regards to this same subject. I was blown out of the water a little bit last week, but it's not the first time I've heard this. I really understand a lot of the pieces that was just shared, the inclusion and all of this for people. But I guess this is where I kind of differ. It's like, as parents, what is our job? What is our job? Is our job to allow others to come into this atmosphere and throw stuff at our kids that a lot of them don't even have a clue about. And I really think, I personally think, trying to even get the words to come in here and just speak, because I'm not mad at any one person in here, or, you know, I think that there's so many things that are put out there for us to see and investigate with our children. But you know, when I'm sitting in a car and I get a conversation on the telephone with my son, who is trying his very best to navigate a situation with his own family, trying to make something right, trying to just walk this road and trying to make really good decisions about where he's at with all of this. And he's just so up against the wall because he's like, where did this even come in? Who allowed this stuff to come in? When do we look at it and say, this inclusion, I understand the inclusion, but at some point we are the parents. We need to teach our kids, not someone else coming in a different way. I can remember seeing drag queens and I just chuckled about it because it didn't mean anything to me. So to turn it around and put it into our children's faces, to say that somehow this is okay, and to have everybody to be on that same page, that loses me. There is no way that everybody's going to be on the same page with this kind of an agenda. I think it's poor that we are allowing these conversations to even, I'm not against the conversations, because quite frankly, I have a gay brother, other people have gay sisters, or whatever. This isn't the matter. The problem is you're bringing it in front of these young children. They are children. They're not ready for this stuff. You wait. You give them time to understand some of this stuff before you throw it in their face. They are children, little children. They need to see what we teach them as parents. And we have to be the one in control, not someone else coming in and throwing a new agenda at them. So without getting too heated about it, and I apologize if that's what it sounds like, but it's frustrating for me. I want the best for my kids. I want the best for my grandchildren. And more than that, I feel like some of these agendas, are not appropriate for this age school children. I think this is really unacceptable. Thank you.
The green shirt, sorry.
Ian Johnson, I live in Bristol. I'm just wondering if the school district teaches Lord of the Flies. And because it's a nice study of what happens to children when they're left alone and unsupervised, on a desert island. I really like, it was a very eye-opening thing when I read it in middle school. And really, it's not good to tell our children that they're all special little snowflakes and everybody should be, and the world should bend to them. Being young, you need to learn how to socialize and learn to make friends. That's part of what school is. It's part of why people send their children to public school. That's part of growing up, learning how to fit into a larger group. Events like this is frankly why people are homeschooling and pulling out of public schools. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ian.
I'm PJ Hans, and I'm also a parent of Beeman Elementary, and I would just like to say that I agree with what Mike has said. It's not about the people in the room. It's about the people in the corner trying to be in the room. And growing up as a kid, you don't know what's out there as an adult or who's like you or who you can be. I was a high risk suicide as a kid, and I wasn't the kid I am today. I actually was saved by a man named Jim Balbano, who won his award at a basketball camp. And I was bullied hard. I was bullied up until I was 21 years old. And you can look it up. In 2004, we were the second most national talked about football team in the national media. And they canceled our season, and our school got sued for $2 million for bullying. And just growing up as a kid, that's a little different. You get bullied. But what helped me was seeing adults that were like me inside. And then that saved me and brought me out of the mold. And now I am who I am today. And you wouldn't know this powerful young man was feeling that way as a kid. So it's about bringing the people that are in the corner to the table and preventing them from killing themselves. You might feel uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable is okay. Being uncomfortable to tell somebody to kill themselves, not okay. So we're only trying to save lives. It's okay to feel uncomfortable if it saves a life. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. Yeah. Yep, I have one more and then. Yeah, sorry, Vicky.
Just to Tanya's sentiment, I actually called the school, like my name.
Sorry, would you start with your
Oh,
name?
sorry, Shannon Hill. I'm looking at Patrick for him. One is Shannon Hill, Shannon CHANIN. I did call the school. I did ask the question. I was told I'd get a phone call back to let me know if the program was or wasn't happening. I didn't receive it. I sent you directly an email. Did you receive that email?
Did not.
That's what my concern is also, that I sent that to the address that is listed on that website. So clearly those are not getting through. I don't know where they're going, but I did. So I just sort of want to recap what I sent to you. I'm feeling the way some of these other parents, if you're conservative, and this isn't part of your values, for the same reason these guys feel like their kids may be bullied because they're different, or they know a kid who feels like they're really different, we also feel being conservative or try to teach our children conservative principles
that we're being bullied, because we don't toe whatever line that they are. Like, we say we're conservative, then we're, I don't know, I have been called a Nazi, unfortunately, because I ran for office, because I am a conservative, so I understand that, but it's really about age appropriateness. And some of the things in the program, I actually looked at the whole program, I actually thought were okay. I think the storybook thing was okay. I wasn't sure about the gentleman coming in, Heroes and you would tell me this program was Heroes and something.
Sweethearts and Heroes.
Sweethearts, Heroes. I thought that was okay. Probably maybe some of the younger kids should have a parent with them because it might be scary to some kids, but I think that's a good program. I probably the hip hop thing I just thought was kind of silly and unnecessary. And the DEI, which is really what it was, some of it I was okay with and some of it I'm not. So I guess the question is, do I send him to school and let him see the things I'm not okay with, or that I'm not being included? When I say kid, I say grandkid. You know, I feel like he's gonna get left out. He's gonna get left out because he's definitely not gonna go to school on the Friday. So he's gonna miss that program. So he's probably not gonna go to school on that Monday, so he's gonna miss that program. So you did that, and so you talk about education and, how's he getting educated if he's not in school? You know, I guess I think schools need to focus on the basics and us in our community, and there's nothing wrong with PTO if they want to sponsor that, have a separate event, not at school, and invite everybody, and then those people who choose to go could. But for those of us that don't want to expose our kids to that, that's really how I feel about it, and that's, I can resend this to you, Patrick, if you want. You know, it's not about the diversity, it's about this one particular thing that really is upsetting a lot of people. There is nothing to me in a drag queen that says child. It's just strange and odd. And not appropriate for anybody, but like I said, it's well written out in my emails, but I'm very emotional right now. So I'm hoping that we, you know, reconsider at least that. So not everybody does what, you know, my family's gonna do, just remain home and find something else. Thank you.
Vicky Coyle from Bristol. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. It's the first time I've done this, so it's weird, even though I sit back there all the time. I do a lot of substitute teaching at Beaman. In fact, it's probably the place where I go to the most out of all the schools, and I kind of protect my time in case Beaman needs me. It's a special little place. I know some of the kids who are affected by the comments and the attitudes directed at them, or not even necessarily directed at them, but at the issue in general. So they become victimized because of the negativity, the comments that are made. And if parents don't want to support this at home, these issues, if they think that this aspect of being different, excuse me, this aspect of being different is not part of their principles, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Your home, your rules, you choose to raise your kids however you want. The issue at school is the community itself and how kids are treating each other and how they're being treated. So that's what it comes down to. And I can tell you how hard the Beaman staff, all the counselors, the social emotional learning specialists, the guidance counselor, how hard they work. And it took me like probably a good year to understand and really learn the language around speaking to kids about these issues. Because, okay, I'm 63 and there were times I want to say, are you kidding me? Stop saying that. But no, you don't say it that way. You kind of reframe it so the child can see how they should be speaking without feeling criticized or being told what to do. And so these programs, I think, are fabulous. Kids in this area aren't going to get access to these programs, and maybe that's okay with you if that's not your values or your morals. That's okay, but the rest of the world is like that. And I think you do kids a disservice by not showing them what the rest of the world is like. And you can have conversations with your kids at home saying, we're not talking about that here. Don't bring it home. But the conversation you should be having is, you should not be treating someone as less than or othering them because of their difference. And that's what I think the whole basis of this program is about. And I can't argue with that, no matter what age group we're talking about. And these kids are feeling these issues in kindergarten. I've seen it. So don't kid yourself that that they're too young for this, because they're not. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Any other comments
Question?
to the board?
Yeah.
We're not usually in the practice of answering questions during public comment, but if you're interested in asking questions to your fellow community members after public comment is over, that feels good. If you do have a question though.
I can answer the question.
Okay. If you could say it, we could write it down and I can email you. That feels fair.
Okay.
Which question?
My question? I guess
My
I would,
question or-
Yeah, well, Tanya, you asked
Okay.
first. Yeah.
So my question was, I understand what this lady was saying about bullying and the rest of the people that have mentioned that.
Yep.
I worked in the school for 10 years as an SRO and bullying went on all the time. When bullying happened, the school addressed it. If you don't address it, there's a state law that says you will address it. So I'm just asking the school, how many times do you guys deal with, I understand that counselors must be dealing with a child that comes to them and says, you know, the kid was picking on me or hit me on the playground or whatever the issue is. But how many times, you know, do you guys as a district, are you calling parents in and sitting down with Johnny or Susie and saying, this is just unacceptable? I mean, I agree with you that it shouldn't be happening. Bullying should not be happening, but I think that starts at home. And then I think it's followed up in the school. I mean, if your child is, whatever the issue is, you know, they have a learning disability, a physical disability, they feel like they don't know who they are, well, then that needs to be dealt with at home. But if it becomes an issue at school, then the school needs to deal with it. And if Johnny is picking on, you know, Susie, then the school needs to deal with it. So how many times in a year does that happen? Where you're actually calling parents in, having some hard conversations, and if it continues, you know, at what point do you guys do something more than just, you know, having a conversation? Because I can tell you, after working in the school system and then working as a school bus driver, bullying goes on all the time on the buses. We report it, and you know what happens? I'm not talking about this school or Bristol or any of the other 5 towns, but you know what happens? It goes to the planning room. And we get, oh, the kid's gotta tell so-and-so they're sorry or apologize to the bus driver, and it happens exactly again the next week. So I'm just saying that, you know, if bullying is going on, and that's the premise for bringing in these people, so that you can explain to your other kids about accepting people that are different than them, that starts at home, and it should be reinforced at the school. So I was just wondering what your numbers look like as far as this district is concerned.
Thanks, Tanya. Renee, you had a question?
I can pose it a question. I guess my question would be to people that support this program is why they think that they should be imposing their ideology on everyone else's children. The woman in the back there, who's the substitute teacher, said that, you know, people don't agree with us. We can teach what we want to teach our kids at our own home. And I would flip that around and ask the persons that support this program, if this is what you're interested in teaching your children, that you could bring it into your home or go to the events that you support rather than imposing your ideology on everyone else. I think Shannon came up with an excellent compromise, which is if the PTO wants to support these kinds of things, that's great, but do it outside of class. Outside of class, offer it outside of class, not forced in the classroom. Because once again, this does violate the federal ban on DEI. The whole thing does. I would agree with Shannon, but I'm more against the drag queen thing. I know what it is. I'm not ignorant about what it is. It is a fetish. It's inappropriate for children K-5.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, Mike,
Are we allowed to comment for a second time during public comment or?
you can, once
Okay.
everyone has commented once.
I'm not gonna answer that question here
That's fine.
specifically. I think, I'll be transparent. I think what we're hearing today is supporting the fact that work needs to be done to inform our community about how do we include all learners, right? We're talking about learners, we're talking about our students. And I hear what you're saying, that should be stated, that we should allow that information. Push, quote, push at home, but fortunately or unfortunately, our kiddos are coming to school where they are coming to a place of safety and acceptance. And that's not happening. Our kiddos, all students are not coming within our buildings and feeling accepted for who they are. And so work needs to happen to inform people about treating people with dignity and respect. That's not happening. So this is one measure for us to be proactive and to help support our kids so that they are informed learners. I think there are adults that need to be informed learners as well. We are looking to build that foundation for our youngest kiddos. And I will argue with you about whether drag queen is a fetish. I think that's your own opinion and perspective. And there is data to support from the Pediatric Society that it's developmentally appropriate to go and talk about identity, orientation, who we are at a young age, including preschool and kindergarten. So I think at the end of the day, I appreciate that we're having a conversation. I do, that it's respectful. That was the conversation that we had at our PTO meeting. People had questions about what was happening, and we came together as a community to talk about what it was that at the end of the day, but I think you said it nicely, we want kids to feel accepted. And when they walk into our school, are they always feeling accepted? And it's not their job or their right to explain to somebody who they are as a person. I completely agree with you in terms of having bullying. Yeah, we have a HHB, hazing, harassment, bullying policy within our school systems. But part of that is informing and educating and providing interventions and support measures for kiddos who are victimized and those that create that harm. So part of that is education. It's not just a slap on the wrist and it's going to go away. It doesn't. It's about informing and educating and supporting along the way. This is a layer of foundation that we're looking to provide to let that happen. And I get it. I understand you're going to have people all the time on both sides of this. As long as we can come together and understand, we are looking to support our kiddos. And I want all of our students at Beeman and any other community to be able to come in and hear with open heart and open mind about what folks are trying to go and share. We're not trying to change people. We're not trying to change perspectives, indoctrinate, but I think it is unfortunate that families are choosing to keep their kiddos home because that work still needs to happen in terms of communicating and talking about how do we care for ourselves, how do we care for others that look different, sound different, learn differently, whatever looks different. And it's not a problem, it's who we are. It's the identity of a person. It's not a problem. If you have dyslexia, that is not a problem. That is how someone learns. That's who they are as a person. We as a learning community need to inform, empower, embrace, and teach the way that that kiddo will be successful. So like when I hear these are problems or issues, no, I don't agree with that. It's not a problem or an issue. It's who somebody is. Let's stop.
Thank you, Mike. So I hear that there's lots of back and forth right now. And I want to be really mindful that if you all would like to have a conversation and continue, you're doing a really great job. And I want to be mindful of our board time. So if I'm gonna take maybe one more, and then I'm gonna close this part of the public comment. If you'd like to do another public comment at the end, we can. But I think I encourage you to continue talking as you are after this.
I'm thinking that this is in the sexual realm, all of this stuff. It's not dyslexia, it's not disability, it's not that, and I do think it is inappropriate at this level to force that on our children.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay. I am gonna close this public comment section. Again, I really appreciate you all coming out and sharing your perspectives. I don't have an answer for you tonight. There's been lots of things posed, and I encourage you to keep having conversations. I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but Patrick, I think between you and Stephanie Sumner, the principal at the school, that lots of questions can be answered. I appreciate that you're kind of approaching it, even though it doesn't feel like totally openly, that you're approaching it with a way to, you can start a conversation and see different sides, and I think that's really important for our community to continue to practice. I appreciate you being a model on two different sides of an issue. Right. I'm gonna move down now to our board management and governance section of our agenda. So is everyone okay? First and foremost, are we good? Are we good to move on, guys, on? Okay, I don't know if anyone wants to do that. So first is a discussion about what resources or training the board wants, and usually we save this conversation till much closer to our August retreat, and it would be nice not to, I think. And to have some stuff lined up, and also, yeah, so just start putting stuff out on the table of what we want to pursue. Does anyone have any ideas?
I would really love to do some sort of team building exercise. I'm not sure if this is a resource or a training or what category it falls into, but I feel like the past couple of months, it's been really hard for us to disagree with each other and communicate with each other in a way that feels productive and feels like we're centering kids. So I would just love to have some space for all of us to reset and figure out how the next couple of months can be a little bit less contentious than the past couple of months have been.
Great, thanks, Meredith.
I was thinking about this specific question today, and I know we've done training on policy and governance in the past.
Yeah.
But I feel like as a board member in the policy and governance model, sometimes I feel very passive or disconnected. And it feels frustrating. I feel like perhaps a training on how we can be most effective within the model would feel good. And I know, I think, like I said, we've done this before and perhaps it touched on that. But I was a new board member and I feel like at this point, we've all been on the board a little bit now and it might be a good refresher.
I think it's also a good stepping stone, because we've done, what are the basics, how do we use it, and then I think the shift now into how do we do it better.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay.
That's the same woman that came in a couple of years ago.
We have them last year. Yeah.
And is that the only resource we have? Is there
It's
other?
kind of the capital one we have because they're in it so often.
And they're through the Vermont School Boards
Right,
Association,
yeah.
that's sort of our go-to, and then they contract with folks to provide that service. And really, the two that have provided the most trainings for us are Debbie Singizer, who is actually an employee of the Vermont School Board Association, and Jeannie Collins, who's a former superintendent that has had extensive experience in policy governance and has had training in it. They're sort of the two. There's another woman named Sue Mogensen, who's an independent contractor that we've used years ago. You were probably on the board when Sue came, thinking about a retreat up in Lincoln at Zeno. Where Sue came, maybe right before. So, yeah, I guess that goes back a little ways now then. So we've tried a few different folks that have brought different sort of perspectives and expertise, but
And when I think about like where are, as a board, like how do we be the most effective within policy and governance? And as I've learned over time, it seems like it's the ends policy, the executive limitations, our monitoring reports. And so to me personally, I feel like I need to get more granular, like in terms of learning, like how can we be the most effective within those parameters?
Okay.
And what else, if anything, is there?
Okay.
Just thinking, is there kind of a model board that
exemplifies policy and governance. And could we invite them in or somehow have like a round table, just be able to shoot questions and see what's working for them? Okay. Any other thoughts on resources or training? Okay, if you think of any, they're not coming to you now, that's fine, just shoot over an email. Okay. All right, we'll move down then to
Kathy.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy, sorry.
I was thinking, I would like a review on our whole hazing, harassment and bullying policy and what the changes, have there been any changes? Are we anticipating any changes? And actually, how does that play out in each of the schools in the district? What does that look like?
Actually, I like what Kathy said. That has been, and I think I might have emailed you
did.
at some point during
Yep.
the year, like when we have this discussion
Yeah,
in
what
the
does it look like?
future.
Yep.
I think some more education around that, so that when we come to those executive sessions, we have a much clearer picture of what the policy is, what the protocols are,
Yep.
and then what our responsibilities are.
Yes.
There you go.
Now we can move down to B, which is a discussion around revision of the committee charges. Seems out of order, but okay, we'll move, we'll flow with it. So typically during these meetings, we reassign ourselves to the different committees. We have a few different ones now, just with the negotiations coming up that we'll have in 27. But then after we assign ourselves, we will go through and just revise and update the committee charges to reflect any changes that committee might need. Anything else? Okay.
I think whether it's the right approach or not, I think the discussion item first, theoretically, if there was a substantial change to the charge of a committee, someone's interest in that committee may shift a little bit. So I think that was maybe the thinking why the discussion first and then the assignments after. That said, I think each committee has recently done quite a lot of work in taking a close look at their charges and brought forward some revisions that have been approved by the board. So it's not that old as they exist now, though there's still room for changes.
Okay. Any other thoughts around that before we move on?
I guess I would agree with that for community engagement, because I think it wasn't that long ago that we rewrote our charges.
The only thing that comes to mind to me right now is maybe a sense that we should, much like we have monitoring reports, and I'm not suggesting something as formal as that. But I think probably either in the charge itself or just sort of generally around the table, we should make a commitment to periodically look at what we're doing relative to the charge.
Okay.
I say this as somebody who's been trying to run facilities and finance and realizing I haven't done that.
Yep.
Right, and it may very well be the case that we've agreed on what these committees overall should be doing. And then as pressing matter pops up, you try to put out the fire that's in front of you. But I think that can give rise to potentially gaps in what we want done overall, that are in the charge that don't actually get addressed.
Okay.
So I don't know what that looks like, but I think maybe I'm just telling myself this, so if the rest of you do, that's fine.
I think it's a
Turn on
good call
I
out.
think we kind of need to do that sort of self-assessment to make sure these lofty charges, which I think are really important, are kind of being met within the committee structure.
Yeah.
That's the only thought I have.
How often?
I don't really know the best way to do that. I've failed to do it both last year.
Quarterly, right?
But-
Like we meet monthly, so after like 3 meetings, if we look like mine's way off base, you need to reel it in,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then that way the next few meetings, we could be making sure we're hitting on our charge.
And like,
That's,
and it
Yeah.
might,
That sort of pulls up for me though, so we don't know as we're unfolding the work, so I think the way we structure the charge isn't granular for that reason, right? We leave it kind of vague, and so. I think you can capture a lot being made general. So I guess I would just wonder, like, for some committees that are really specific, like negotiations, right? That's a very specific charge, you have a really one job. Seems pretty easy to measure whether or not you did it. But with the other charges, I don't disagree that I think we should make sure we're within the rails, but I don't know if we ever get totally off base, because discussions are so iterative, and kind of fluid right now with everything we've been talking about. So I just keep that in the back of your mind when you're reviewing your charges, and if we're going to say we're gonna monitor, great, fine, whatever, but just leave room for the flexible parts. You know. And we redo them every year, so.
Yeah, do we do that during the first breakout committee meeting? Like-
Typically, but April we'll have a board meeting first, second, right? So we'll have our business meeting in March on the 24th, and then a business meeting again.
Kind of depends on where we land with the some of the work things to get done. Yeah.
So it might not work out completely that way when we review it during the first meeting, or if it does, but I like that, Bob. I like that. Okay. Any other thoughts about that? Okay. How about we move down to an action to appoint representatives to the following committees? And I get a motion to open. So moved. Melissa first,
Second.
Justin second. Okay, so let's go through, we'll approve it all as one thing. Okay? No, piecemeal. Okay, community engagement. Who all wants it?
I'd like to continue on the committee and I would like to no longer chair the committee.
Love that for you. Liz. Liz, your hand's up for yes.
Yeah, yes to be on it.
Okay.
And maybe we can,
I'll stay on it. Sorry.
and maybe we can discuss at a next CEC meeting about the chair. Or do we
Sounds
need to
good.
do that now? Yeah.
No, you don't
okay.
need to do that now. Barb, Liz, Kristen, and Meredith. Anyone else? Okay. F and F. I know Brad,
Melissa.
Melissa. That's right.
Kathy,
Kathy. Mike,
Yeah, I'm happy to continue to do that. Probably.
jumping ship. Really? Shock and awe.
Well, let's talk about policy and governance.
That makes sense. Boy. Okay. Policy and governance then. Bolston. Dustin.
Yep.
Kylie. Sarah Lauer is not here, and I have not heard her choice. I'll be on policy and governance. So we might have to wait to assign.
I think you, as chair, you have authority to assign. If you wanted to assign her where you think it is, and it can change later. I think the challenge without assigning her anywhere, her ability to participate without being assigned is kind of suspect.
You know what's bothering me though is we're all 4, 4, and 4. So you can really
Fair.
Well, she has been on P&G, so why don't I just keep her there, and then if she'd like to move, does that sound fair? So Sarah Lauer will be on P&G. Okay. All right, negotiations for support staff.
perhaps a contextual piece here, I think a minimum of two.
Yes.
I say that with a bit of emphasis.
Yeah.
Even two is pretty slim. And it places a lot, in particular, like if it was two, I think in order for a meeting to happen, both would have to be present. Three gives a little bit of wiggle room if somebody can't make it to the meeting. And the
What time of-
implication, I would just add the implications of not being able to meet because the folks couldn't be present can kind of snowball and have a potential significant impact on being able to settle in a timely manner, et cetera, et cetera.
What is when do those meetings happen?
Yeah.
How often, how much time, and all that.
They are, so the best answer in the world, it depends.
Yeah.
But to give you just sort of a general sense, and Katrina has been the one that has been sort of the resource for support staff, so correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, Katrina. Once or twice a month, I think is probably fair. They tend to be probably 2 to 3 hour meetings. And how many meetings really depends on the issues and the complexity of the issues. And for what it's worth, not to convince folks to want to join this, there have been some pretty complex things tackled in recent years, which theoretically bodes well that those are sort of behind and not out in front still. So.
Right,
We're
so
optimistic.
so the last round was a heck of a lot easier to go through together than the round before where we created a salary grid together. We hadn't had one forever before then. That was a lot of heavy lifting to figure out how to do that in a way that was fair to our current employees and would help us move forward. Looking at lots of models across the state and beyond. So that was 2 times ago. Last time felt like, whoo, all right, we got some little things to tackle, but it wasn't quite that heavy lift that it was 2 times ago. So I'll just echo that. For those of us who have done this a few times, we know what that looked like 2 times ago. Moving forward, it's probably going to be a little bit more organized.
And always the caveat of, we have no idea what the interests are right now, so this is all speculation.
Kathy?
I was just curious, Patrick, you were talking about the number of things that you've addressed in the last 2 negotiations. What are you anticipating as being issues to come forward? And when do negotiations start?
So in terms of issues to come forward, there are a couple of things that I'm in conversation right now with union leadership around that may or may not produce some side letters that I think can help a kind of, in a way, proactively address some issues that are in the contract ahead of time. Oftentimes, what is the case, though there's nothing that requires this to be true, some sort of a glitch in the contract becomes evident. We work as sort of MAEA leadership and MAUSD leadership to resolve those. We get approval through a side letter, and then we often take that language that solved that problem and embed that in the next iteration of the contract. So some of that's happening that may address some things that are popping up. For sure, there will be other workday, work year issues that I can't necessarily predict right now. And of course, in particular, salaries, benefits less so because of the statewide bargaining for healthcare. That took a big load off of the local negotiations. And your other question, remind me what the other question was. Oh, when does it start? That's a little bit, one side or the other has to sort of initiate. So they need to send an official letter that says we'd like to get started. I would say pretty typical November-ish, maybe December-ish, rarely before November.
Usually in the fall.
And if all goes well, if we assume a November-ish start, I think we shoot for a February completion. So that there's time for both sides to meet and understand and ratify and have it all sort of neatly tucked away before it's time to issue contracts for a successor agreement.
Meetings during the day and evening?
It's really what works for the group. Typically, I would say almost always they're in the evenings or late afternoon, 4, 5, 6 o'clock start, depending on availability of folks that are attending. In person is always preferred. I don't even know if there's been an option for a hybrid.
Yeah, a few times.
Maybe a couple sort of work sessions where there's a very specific thing to tackle.
Definitely, to your point, not preferred. We really
Yeah.
do prefer to be together. It tends to bode well for us to stick with our norms and our agendas in a pinch, whether obviously over years we figured it out. But yeah, we'd rather be together.
And I think, while I think looking historically, it has almost always been 2 to 3 hour meetings in the evening during a weekday. There's nothing that prohibits the group from meeting for half days or all day on a Saturday, or if you wanted fewer meetings that are longer. It's really up to the group to decide what works.
So at least 2, 3 would be better.
We said earlier, Sarah is not here, so.
Sarah is not here.
So, bam, there we go.
Bradley does the professional.
Bradley's and I just did the.
Right, you guys just.
That's true.
I would volunteer. I've done it the last 2 times, but I am not.
I see Liz's hand up.
Liz?
This is practicing.
Yes? Okay, there's one, guys.
I would entertain participating, but I don't know what months we're going to be gone this winter. That's the only problem. If you want me to be the third, I'd be happy to do it remotely as much as I could if we're gone, if we're even gone.
And winter's 10 months of the year, isn't it?
Not today, Patrick, not today.
All right, now I'm gonna put you down with a question mark, but could just one more person be big and brave? Did it last time, Barbara?
I know. I'm kind of in the same boat as Kathy. I worry that I may or may not physically be able to be in the room.
And for what it's worth, from a timing perspective, so next year, support staff negotiates, and the year after, professional staff negotiates, so plenty of opportunity for folks to be engaged.
Yeah, the timing, I can't commit to it, given my single parent November. Or, yeah. All right, well, why don't I float it to the other people? I don't know. I don't know what to do. We have one, so we can vote on one today.
I'm assuming it has to be a board member.
Yes. And there are, yeah.
And for what it's worth, we try to, so Katrina and I act as resources. We try to do a lot of work in between sessions to support, to minimize the sort of in-between session work that board members need to be engaged in, so. It's primarily the meeting time itself that is the commitment. Is that fair assessment for folks that do that?
Fair.
Yep.
I will just add, we often laugh and enjoy our time together at these meetings. I think it's easy to get this image of negotiations that is contentious and adversarial and all these things. And that is true in many places most of the time. And it's true at times that we have the hard conversations and you can feel the tension sometimes. But there are no sort of attorneys present. It is much more of a digging into the issues and trying to understand both perspectives and arriving at something that feels like is a mutual interest. So it actually, I think, and I think this is something to be proud of, and is, I will say, pretty unusual. Our relationships strengthen through negotiations. They are not typically damaged through negotiations. And it's been that way for a decade. I think we have a pretty good track record we're building that's to be celebrated.
Meredith, what was that?
Can I blame it on accidentally clicking my mouse.
Not now.
Okay. So it's 2 to 3 hours once a month for the whole year in the evening.
No.
Once or twice a month. I'll just sort of throw that out with a little bit of a cringe. And it's really November through February for the most part.
Okay. I'm in, I'll do it.
Oh my word.
We try super hard to settle before contracts get issued. That's always the goal, right? So if we all have that common goal in mind, it helps, right? And I will also echo that while we've not really had a remote option, I can imagine a world where a hybrid could work. I'm just a resource person. It's not my decision. But with our critical issues bargaining training, I could see a way where some of that concessions could work for the good of all. So
That would be amazing. I've got my tiny coworker back here with me right now. So a remote option would be lovely.
Kathy, is that enticing? Would you like to be a third?
Yes.
Okay. Not a big motivation.
One other piece I'll add to that,
Okay, the third.
our practice is we almost never like have a caucus or have like it's almost everything, almost all the time, the conversation is with everyone in the room and the information is fully transparent and we're all working with the same stuff. So I say that in support of the potential for a hybrid to be effective because you don't have the clunkiness of breakout rooms and all of that stuff that can be tricky with a hybrid.
You'll just miss the food.
There you go.
That's all.
Which we also share responsibility for. It's a very, very kumbaya kind of experience.
Okay. So down to F, our community representative to PHCC will, Kim Farnham would like to continue that role. So she's slated in there.
Did I skip the board?
Did I skip the board? Oh, I wrote over that. Sorry, Liz, E. Are you, the board representative to PHCC? Is that still good for you? Okay, great. Sorry. Thank you, Vicky, for catching that. F is Kim, and then G, our community council representative. Liz, have you been doing that too, or has it been like?
Should we just confirm
people?
F for 1 minute? So Kim Farm's interested in continuing, and that's great. And I'll just state that I have not been made aware of any other community member that's interested in being the community rep to the Career Center, just to sort of put that out there. So it's not a contested position that could get its due diligence.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anybody else either. And Kim's our chair of PHCC, so it's great to keep her there. And we for community council, the timing on it is right. It's impossible for me to be there in person. Really, I'd have to. I don't know what I'd do. I haven't figured out how to get there. So really, I think maybe as a part of community engagement, we could do intentional outreach, but I just chat with people, and students want to hear what we're doing. They want us to know what they're doing. They talk about sending us, we have our member who joined, right? So it's really not so much attending the meetings as it is just keeping an open line of communication is been the idea.
Would it be, I don't know if it's kosher, but could we do CEC as our representative? Because then we could just do what Liz is saying and have that line of communication, knowing that Benji's also here.
Yeah, it will probably be helpful to the community council to have a point person as opposed to a point committee. But the community engagement committee could identify who that point person is to be in communications, attend meetings if they're able.
Yeah.
But maybe not necessarily, because the meetings are shortly after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Liz, is that?
The last I knew, they were right after school, 2:45 to 3:15, right?
Yep.
Something like that. And then their executive committee, because they go late to their practices. And then the other if they were at 2, that would be different. But and so on their end, they also have a process where you have to attend 4 meetings and then you get appointed through them. Like you take the position of being a community representative or a school board representative. So even if we kind of do that on our end, there's requirements in order to be a representative. I don't know. So I don't really, so like we're not official members of community council anyway. I don't
I
know.
think the intent has been sort of to have a liaison more so than necessarily a voting member on community council. So I think what you're proposing, Liz, is an alternative to that liaison responsibility that doesn't have a meeting attendance requirement. That may just be the reality of what we can do.
So what did we land on? 1 person?
Yeah, does that feel appropriate for a community engagement committee to have that conversation and identify the person that will be the one that the community council emails if they have something to connect around and vice versa?
So during this action item, we would go to table that.
You could do that or
Just be
or
a member
charge,
of-
they could, yeah.
Oh, sure.
A member of
CEC.
CEC.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what we're appointing.
Yeah,
Okay.
a member of
So that's-
CEC to be determined by CEC.
Yeah.
Okay.
That feels
Better,
maybe
easier.
fine.
And we can always at a subsequent meeting, name that person and
Yes.
make it official. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. That's everybody. Vicky, is that feeling captured or do we want to walk through it?
No, I have it for the motion. I just had to approve the appointments to the following committees.
Yep, and yep, Sasha's saying.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna leave community council representative in there.
Yes, with just a member of CEC. Okay,
We already had, Melissa and Justin. Prove that.
correct. So we're just voting on it. Yep, yep.
Uh,
Okay.
Erin,
Yes.
I just got a text from Sarah Lauer. She's in Costa Rica and she'd like to be on the community engagement committee.
Okay.
Good catch, just in the nick of time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Is all set, Vicky, with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had her somewhere else. though,
I
too.
have her on P and G.
Are you pulling her from P and G?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of appointing the representatives to the following committees and assignments, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So I don't have my computer up because I forgot my charger cord. But there's a board highlights assignments. That I haven't updated but shall update to reflect the next calendar year as we move through it. So I will assign myself updating that. So please just check that. It's always at the top of the agenda. So just make sure you know which one. And we need to get back into practice of that. Okay. And those go through June right now, so we're not completely done with them, just. We don't have any new board members, so there's no shift.
We neglected to congratulate all the board members that ran for their seats and were reelected.
Got reelected. Yay, guys. Kathy and Mike and.
Kristen.
Okay, last under board management and governance is the adoption of the education delivery tool, which I sent out earlier today. I embedded everything we had talked about at the last meeting. I made a section that's I know there was talk about adding other questions or other thoughts into the already existing buckets, and so what I did was created a section for like unanswered questions or questions we still had, given the information we get per bucket. Which would allow us to generate more ideas as we go through data collection. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Barb first,
Second.
Kylie second. Any other discussion about the updated tool?
Just have a question.
Yep.
Under the data sources.
Yep.
So. Obviously, we're exploring these models. We won't have the data. I assume what that means is just looking at perhaps other schools that follow similar models.
No, so what I'm thinking is that, and we're gonna talk about this at the next board meeting too, to really hone in on what information makes sense. Because all that data that I'm asking for should come from our district, so that when we're evaluating our options, we're able to make educated choices about what makes sense for.
Okay,
Does that make
so when
sense?
you like proficiency rate,
Yeah.
things like that,
Right.
graduation rates.
Yeah.
Considering our rates when we look at the
Correct.
different models.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering if, and I don't even know if this is in that category for academic and student outcomes, possible data sources, could it be programs offered?
That can definitely be a data point. So what I put were just suggestions, like starting
Yeah.
points of the data, but definitely when we talk about it. Next time we can certainly add. What we'll do is we'll go through each option, or not the option, each bucket and say, what data do we need? And then we'll agree as a board what that looks like. And that doesn't mean that's the end all be all of what we're asking for. It just gives us a launching point. Cause it's gonna be a pretty significant lift for admin and others to get us
Yeah,
some of it.
thanks.
And the more clarity we can have to know precisely what the board's interested in for data, the better, the more helpful that will be for us to provide what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think, as we're thinking about the data sources, obviously any data we're gonna be able to collect about our performance in MAUSD is at best current and most historical. It'll be incumbent on all of us to shift that to forward thinking, future thinking in a different scenario. In what ways does that current or past experience change in light of what we're talking about? So that was just, yeah. And that's where I think bringing educators to the table to have conversations about past outcomes and potential for future outcomes, may be useful.
Any other discussion about the tool? If it's missing anything, are there any other thoughts about it? Again, as we start to, yeah, Kathy, go ahead.
I wonder, as I look at this, the thing that keeps coming up in my mind is, in order to positively affect every one of these areas in the domain, what does the timeline look like? I want to somewhere capture the time frame that it's going to take us to make these changes. And I think that the public is really worried that we're going to spring it on them like in 4 months. And to know that there's thoughtful planning, that one of these
Oh, you said our energy that's unstable.
capture it on this. You've done a wonderful job with this matrix.
Great. You paused a little bit there. You had a little blip, but I think we got what you were saying. I agree with you. And at the next board meeting, we'll also go over the timeline. What I'm envisioning is putting that timeline as part of that document. So on the very bottom underneath sort of the process, have the timeline there. And then as we fill this in as a board with the information we're collecting, that this is really visual for the whole community. So we're gonna put, hopefully, on our MAUSD webpage so that people can access it and click through it at their leisure and explore it themselves as our information populates. So that for that reason, right? So they'll be able to see the timeline of when we're making decisions, what it looks like, what information is involved, and dig through what we have for that reason. So we agree, and we'll talk about that at the next board meeting.
And once we have that clarity, we can push it out too, like it can be on the website, we can do pop-ups and
Yeah.
front porch forum, Facebook, all those
Yeah.
things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? Great.
Aaron, one of the things I had not been thinking about that I thought was really valuable around this was as information is shared, so one of the next things is likely to be a feasibility study from Trox Collins. So as the board receives information relative to the various options and pros and cons and all of that, this tool not only can help evaluate those pros and cons, but it becomes a place where you can store that information for future reflection as well. So it can kind of build over time as you get more and more information. I hadn't thought about it that way, and I thought that was great.
Yeah. All those in favor of adopting the education delivery option evaluation tool, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Great job, guys. All right, public comment. Just last one. All right, I'm not seeing any. So next we have an executive session under T1 BSA 313A1B. It's a labor relations agreement with employees. And first, we need an action to determine that the premature general public knowledge would place the public body or person at a substantial disadvantage. Can I get
So
a-
moved.
Thank you, Mike, first.
Second.
Melissa, second. Next, we need an action to enter executive session under that.
We need to vote on that.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
you're right. All those in favor of determining that premature general public knowledge would place us at a disadvantage, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Mike. Okay, next, we need an action to enter executive session.
So moved.
Melissa first.
Second.
Okay, Barb second. All those in favor of entering executive session at 7:28, please say aye.
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Okay. We will create a breakout room and we can move to the campfire room.